RetroPL from supertraining.tv. Supertraining Gym, the strongest gym in the West. This is Matt Moore. He came down from Vancouver. Another Canadian in the gym, representing Team Canada. Here's David Butt Squish going. Got David, Ryan Cove, and Damon Thurman going all together. I think that's his last name. Kind of hard to keep track of the B squad sometimes. But these guys got a great amount of work in on this day. They did Thompson style squats where they just kept adding chain weight. So the whole point of the Thompson squat really is just to get a lot of volume in, a lot of good quality volume. It's not too much different than speed work that you would do West Side style, except for the percentages are just higher. And because the percentages are higher, you do less sets. So it would almost be like the tail end of a West Side session. Kind of think of it that way might simplify everything for you. See David doing a little funkiness with his head, throwing his head back like that from the bottom. You want to try to keep, because really what you're trying to do when you do that kind of stuff is you're trying to keep your back in the right position. You're trying to keep your chest up. So in order to just keep your chest up, just keep your chest up. You don't have to necessarily move your head around all funky. A lot of times we'll see dysfunction in other spots and we'll see people miss and get rounded over. Your body doesn't really do what you want it to do. It does a bunch of other stupid shit. Tries to bail out on you. But if you watch the big boys squat, watch Chuck Vogelpool, watch Brian Carroll, watch Dave Hoff, AJ Roberts, watch a lot of those guys go. And the chin, a lot of times, or chins, in some cases, are tucked back rather than their head moving up. When you think about flicking that weight off your back like you're doing a good morning, you want the neck and the head kind of in a more neutral spine, neutral position rather. There's Matt doing some repetitions. He's kind of doing some holy squats, which I love that term, Olympic squats, because there is no squat in the Funkin' Olympics. So therefore there is no Olympic squat. Olympic lifters fuck up everything, I swear to God. Here we got a good angle of Cove doing some box squats from the side. And again, don't forget the chains are accommodating resistance. They're adding more weight at the top, less weight at the bottom. To pick on David a little bit more, he could lock those out a little bit better, stand up with those squats a little bit better. Always make your training harder than the contest itself. So stand up with that shit, hold it, and then rack it, and then go down and do another rep. But the chains and the bands are going to help you become more explosive. It's going to force your body to produce more force. You can see these guys really popping into it. And the chains are cool because no matter how hard you pop into them, you kind of end up moving them slowish anyway, which is kind of a neat effect. Whereas with the bands, you can just get going, moving like 9 billion miles an hour sometimes. And you do see a transfer over in explosiveness, but you don't always see a transfer over in just that brute strength that you sometimes need, that strain. You don't get that strain that you sometimes need with the big weights. Louis and anyone who does West Side, they're always talking about getting that strain. And you're going to tend to see it a little bit more in the case of the chain, just because it's like more like a dead weight. See how much that chain's hitting the ground as Damon's doing the squats there. And you have probably around 150 or 200 pounds of chains on the bar. And about 80 or 90% of that is deloaded onto the floor when you're at the bottom of the squat. My chubby little self dusting off a 1035 reverse band squat. Cove going again. Chest is up. Knees are out. Hips are coming through explosively. Pretty solid form there. You see a little bit of funkiness happening as he goes up in weight, but I mean that's to be expected. Weights get heavier, and You know, that was a pretty good squat by David. You know, that was a good squat. But as the weights get heavier, you're going to see more and more dysfunction, pretty much no matter how good the athlete is. So you want to try to avoid that as much as you possibly can and keep your form the best you can. There's Robot doing about a 10-15. I'm sorry, 10-15. He'll like that. That was an 8-15 squat. You can also notice that Cove doesn't have a real pointed out, you know, toes pointed out position. It's a little bit more moderate, and that's because you can wind up the hip capsule more effectively by having your feet a little bit more straight-ish. It doesn't mean you have to have your feet completely straight. I think people misinterpret what I say. They stick words in my mouth, along with other things, along with other objects that people like to stick in my mouth. But you want to try to keep your feet straight or straight-ish. I like it as a training tool to keep them totally straight and try to go really wide. You can see myself here going, feet are fairly straight. To me, it helps wind up that hip capsule more, and by winding up the hip capsule, you're going to be able to display more strength through your extremities. You're just going to notice just a total change in your squat by doing that. You kind of utilize your ass a lot more. If you do a little test right now, I bet all you guys really like that. If you do a little test right now, if you would like to try to do a little test for your hips right now, stand, you know, pretty wide, like a wide stance, multiply squat. Point your toes out real wide. Point your toes out real far, and try to flex your butt. You can do it with pants on. That would be fine. Pants off would be fine too. And now try that same test by pointing your feet completely straight forward. And you can see you're going to be able to flex your ass harder, and you're going to be able to get your hips underneath better. Just as Robot does here, feet are straightish. There's 835. Pretty much smoked that sucker. His form is really getting locked in, and it's going to be, you know, it won't be long before that sucker is squatting around 900 pounds. He'll just kind of go right from 7 to 9 out of nowhere. There's 1125. Ugly son of a bitch squat. It was high, I admit it. I confess. But it was a good overload, and that's it from SuperTraining.tv.